And we're back with our politics lead. President Trump said today that he will name a new White House chief of staff in 2 weeks or less, but it's the threat of impeachment that might be weighing into his final decision. A source close to the White House tells me that the president is particularly interested in his former deputy campaign manager, David Bossie, for chief of staff potentially. Bossie helped with Republican investigations in the House before former President Bill Clinton was impeached, and the president is said to be interested in his expertise. Should the president be thinking about this? I mean, it actually seems, to be a lot of consideration about something that actually might happen, impeachment.
Yeah, I think the challenge that we have is what is in the interest of the American people versus what is in the best interest politically for Democrats. Democrats are a little gun-shy about impeachment because they think that they would, in fact, experience the vast amount of political consequences going into the next election, et cetera. And I think that's the real rub and the challenge. Democrats won the House because the American people expected them to fight and to push back against Trump. This is one example of how they can do that, but they have to be brave enough to challenge what is the impeachable offense.
And we all know, by the way, Amanda, where the best place to audition for a job in the Trump White House is Fox News, his favorite channel. And Bossie was on Fox today running down a checklist of attributes that he thinks the president might need in his next chief of staff. Take a listen.
As somebody who will be able to handle what is this subpoena cannon, somebody who's going to understand what the House is going to do to him and the White House staff in trying to drag them into a legal process and an investigative process that will slow down the success of this White House. Somebody who can stop that from happening.
And David, somebody with a crew cut, somebody
wearing a blue suit today.
He has another qualification. He wrote a book called Let Trump Be Trump, bylined with Corey Lewandowski.
Yeah.
So he's been auditioning, I think, for a job for some time, but I think he's a good fit. I don't think, he's the most stately guy, but for the Trump White House, if Trump is looking to go to war against the Democrats' impeachment, yeah, David Bossie's your guy. He was president of Citizens United, who essentially did nothing but make anti-Hillary films and campaign against her for many years. And so he has some House experience. And look at the cast of characters. You're going to go with Bossie. I put my very limited funds on him.
And he's having lunch, by the way, he's having lunch with President Trump on Friday. Just
Really? Oh, my God.
Wow.
David Bossie should be in the White House counsel's office or in some public affairs communications office handling impeachment. Fine, he can fight the Democrats and all that. Chief of Staff is kind of an important job, and there'll be a moment in the next year when, there'll be a moment next year when there's a crisis with North Korea or a crisis with Putin or something, and the Chief of Staff will be in the Oval Office, and Jim Mattis will be on the phone, and Mike Pompeo will be on the phone. You'd sort of like a Chief of Staff who could deal with them somewhat as peers, as John Kelly could. Kelly may not have been right in all of his judgment, but there were times, I believe, when he and Mattis and McMaster before, and Pompeo, probably stopped some things from happening that we should be grateful they stopped, or shaped policies in ways that made a kind of just random thought of Trump something that was manageable and responsible or semi-responsible for the country. I'm very nervous about it. I mean, I really think we can joke about Bossie, and I'm happy to joke about him. And I know him, he's a nice guy, but the idea that he would be chief of staff, which is a serious job, that is not good for the country. And it is part of a process where the grown-ups are leaving one by one, and they're being replaced by people who are not serious and have no interest in curbing the president's instincts, impulses, and irrational wishes.
Well, look, I just think that I want to underscore Bill's point here in saying that I've never worked at the White House, but I read, and I know that the job of the White House Chief of Staff is, in fact, not just the person that makes sure the president doesn't tweet too much. Like, they are the person that keeps the trains running on time. If there's an issue, they are the folks that overall deal with all of the staff, these high-level folks. I don't know if David Bossie is that person.
I think he has operational experience. I mean, I'm not giving him a ringing endorsement. I just think he's a good match for what currently goes on there.
I don't care who the president's chief of staff is. I think the real question becomes is what will the president's relation with Congress be with his 116th Congress? What they will be dealing with in the House are a number of oversight hearings, but also Democrats are going to want to get some things done. There will be attempts to pass different types of policies, and if the White House does not have its own house, quote unquote, in order, as we saw today, I don't think they do, it's going to be a very rocky road. And so David Bossie or whoever else is going to be the chief of staff won't be their only issue.
No, according to reporting by CNN's Dana Bash, President Trump liked a checklist that Bossie gave to the Washington Post on fighting Congress and Mueller. Bossie said the president should hire, quote, a pack of killers people who know congressional rules backward and forward. He urged Republicans to narrow the scope of investigations so later they can argue that whatever is turned up is not within that scope. He urged the Trump White House to have a fifth and fled crowd. He says, just like the Clintons did, where people plead the fifth and flee the country when inquiries pop up. Sounds like Bossie has a roadmap for the president's next 2 years, and that might be what the president is interested in.
So again, this goes to, I think, Bill, the point that you're making. There is a role that is supposed to be associated with the White House Chief of Staff. At one point, it was associated with the president, but we have a different game in town, right? Like it just is kind of what it is. The fact that there's this foolish checklist, and that is what's the most intriguing to him. The fact that he litigates real, challenging, complex policy in 200 plus characters on Twitter is problematic. And yeah, they shouldn't be a Twitter cop, but somebody's got to watch that. And anyway, I don't even.
But I mean, I guess one of the points is you could bring in Bossie to do what you like, what you're talking about, but have him be in charge of the war room or have him be the political director. You have him.
Listen, we know that Trump has been reported in the press. They wanted somebody with political experience. Nobody that has real political insight would take that job right now. But David Bossie is enough of a partisan to say, yes, if you want me to help you fend off impeachment, I'm your guy. I don't see anybody else raising their hand.
All right.